My daughter forgot to hang up the phone. I heard it's time for me to go to a nursing home. I'm a burden. I stayed silent, but something deep inside me shattered in that moment. I sold the house for $875,000. When they returned from their work trip with big smiles on their faces, a shocking surprise was waiting for them. Their keys wouldn't open the front door anymore. They discovered an envelope on the front steps, and after they read what was inside, the screaming began. And then I realized they wouldn't just leave it alone. This was only the start of everything. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The aroma of beef stroganoff filled the kitchen as I stirred the sauce one final time. Sarah's favorite since she was 12 years old. I'd spent 3 hours preparing it. The beef cut into perfect strips, mushrooms sautéed until golden, the cream sauce whisked to silk. The homemade bread cooled on the counter, still warm from the oven. Sarah's car pulled into the driveway at 8:15. I plated her dinner carefully, arranging everything just the way she liked it. "Hey, Dad." Sarah dropped her purse by the door and slumped into her chair, immediately pulling out her phone. "How was your day, sweetheart?" I set the plate before her and poured fresh orange juice. She took a bite without looking up from her screen. "Ugh, Dad, this is way too salty. And gross. So much cream." She made an exaggerated gagging face. "Did you even taste this before serving it?" My stomach tightened. "I can make you something else." "Don't bother. I'll just order something decent later." She pushed the plate away like it was contaminated, still scrolling her phone. God, I'm so tired of having to pretend this tastes good. I ate my portion in silence, watching her struggle through half the meal. When she finished, she stood abruptly. "I'm going upstairs to rest. Long day tomorrow." The dishes clinked softly as I cleared the table alone. 9 years I'd been cooking for her alone after Helen passed. 9 years of trying to fill the mother-shaped hole in both our lives. I was halfway through washing the plates when I heard her voice drifting down from upstairs. Muffled. Talking to someone. Michael, probably, her husband of 2 years. I dried my hands and prepared her nighttime ritual, a glass of warm milk with a touch of honey, just like when she was little. 2 chocolate chip cookies on a small plate. She used to call it her sleepy snack. The old wooden stairs creaked under my feet as I climbed toward her room. Her door was slightly ajar, and I raised my hand to knock when her words stopped me cold. "Living with him is exhausting, Michael. He's always hovering, always trying to take care of me." My hand froze inches from the door. I know, but he's my father. I can't just—" Her voice dropped lower. "He makes me feel guilty all the time, like I owe him something." The milk glass trembled in my grip. I should have walked away, should have respected her privacy. But my feet stayed planted on that creaky floorboard. "You're right. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. He's become such a burden." The word hit me like a physical blow. Burden. After everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd given up for her happiness. I backed away from the door on unsteady legs, the milk sloshing in the glass. Downstairs, I poured it down the sink and stood gripping the counter until my knuckles went white. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, her words echoing in my mind. Burden. Exhausting. Can't do this much longer. The next morning, I called her office. "Hi, sweetheart. What would you like for dinner tonight? I thought I'd make your grandmother's pot roast." "Dad, I'm at work." Her voice carried that edge of irritation I'd been hearing more often lately. "Just whatever. I have to go." The line went quiet, but not dead. She'd forgotten to hang up. "Michael, yeah, it's me again." Her voice was clear now, unguarded. "He just called asking what I want for dinner, like I'm still 10 years old." My breath caught. I know. We need to put him in that nursing home soon. This house is worth $890,000 now. I looked it up. We're sitting on a gold mine. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the kitchen table. He's becoming a real burden, Michael. We need our space, especially if we're going to start trying for a baby, like we talked about. I sank into my chair, staring at the heart-shaped piece of toast I'd been preparing for her breakfast. The toast she'd never eat, because she always grabbed coffee and a muffin on her way to work. Once Dad's in care, this place will be perfect. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, that beautiful kitchen. We've been living like roommates instead of a married couple. At that moment, 35 years of fatherhood shattered like glass. All those sleepless nights when she was sick, all those sacrifices, all that love I'd poured into raising her alone after Helen died. And she saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to her happiness. Something inside me broke that morning, but I didn't break down. I broke free. The memories flooded back as I sat in the darkened kitchen, staring at that heart-shaped toast growing cold. 25 years ago, I'd given up my engineering job when Sarah was 10. Helen had gotten that promotion requiring constant travel. Someone had to be home for homework, soccer practice, parent-teacher conferences. "Don't worry," I told Helen, "I can find something flexible." Flexible meant night security at $4 an hour. My engineering degree gathered dust while Sarah needed cleats, tutoring, everything. The herniated disc hit 5 years later, lifting furniture during Sarah's college moves. Surgery cost $15,000. So did her tuition that semester. I chose her education and lived with the pain. 20 years ago, I sold my '67 Mustang for $15,000. Sarah's college tuition. She never knew. I said I was tired of old cars. 15 years ago, when Sarah's appendix burst, I took unpaid leave for 2 months. Lost the promotion I'd worked toward. Never caught up after that. 10 years ago, stress caught up. Heart palpitations at 48. The doctor said to slow down. But Sarah needed graduate school funds. I worked 2 jobs instead. 4 hours of sleep became normal. Hair turned gray in 6 months. Then Helen got sick. 9 years ago. 18 months of cancer. I lost 35 pounds from stress, developed diabetes from vending machine meals at 3 a.m. Sarah visited twice monthly. Too stressful for me, Dad. I held Helen's hand when she died. Her last words, "Promise me you'll let Sarah take care of you." "She'll never worry about anything," I promised. After Helen died, Sarah moved home, temporarily. 2 years later, still figuring things out. I had a purpose again, someone to cook for, care for. I woke at 5 every morning, joints screaming, drove to the farmer's market for fresh ingredients, spent 3 hours preparing meals she barely touched. My doctor warned about overexertion. "Your blood pressure is dangerously high." But Sarah needed me, didn't she? I skipped medical appointments for her schedule, delayed knee surgery because she had work stress. My woodworking shop gathered dust. Helen's guitar sat unplayed. Gave up poker nights. Sarah might need something. She never did. Instead, $200 gym membership she never used. Spa treatments every other week. Vacation cruises costing more than I made in 3 months, while I rationed diabetes medication to save money. The bank statements told the story. $2,000 monthly from our joint account. Money I'd saved buying generic groceries, wearing shirts with holes, taking buses instead of maintaining my car. She funded her lifestyle with my sacrifice. In Helen's jewelry box, beneath her wedding ring, was a note. "For our devoted husband and father, you gave us everything." Everything. My health, time, dreams, future. Invested in someone who saw me as furniture. I walked to the filing cabinet. The house deed, in my name only. I'd never added Sarah to protect her from taxes and inheritance complications. How considerate of me. My hands were steady as I reached for the phone book. Real estate agents under our lawyers, under L-Time. Sarah learned what burden actually meant. For 3 days, I barely slept. The conversation replayed in my mind like a broken record. Burden. Nursing home. $890,000. Part of me wanted to confront her directly, to sit her down and explain how much her words had hurt. Maybe she hadn't meant it. Maybe I'd misunderstood. But another part of me, a part that had been growing stronger since Helen's death, whispered something darker. Actions reveal truth better than explanations ever could. I decided to test her. Wednesday morning, I clutched my lower back and groaned loudly as I made breakfast. Real pain, actually. The arthritis was flaring again. But I made it theatrical. "Oh, my back," I muttered when Sarah came downstairs. She glanced up from her phone. "Dad, maybe take some aspirin. I have 3 important client calls this morning." No concern, no questions about whether I needed help or should see a doctor. Just irritation that my pain might inconvenience her schedule. That afternoon, she came home with glossy brochures. Sunset Manor, premium assisted living. The photos showed elderly people smiling while playing chess and doing watercolor paintings. "Dad, look how beautiful this place is." She spread the brochures across the kitchen table where I'd been paying bills. "They have a pool, activities, and nurses available 24/7. My throat went dry. "But I'm not sick, sweetheart." "It's preventive care, Dad. Michael thinks it's smart planning." Her voice carried the tone she used with difficult clients, patient but firm. "Think about it. What if you fall? What if something happens and I'm at work?" Michael appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. "Property values in that area are going to double in 5 years. You'd be sitting on gold, Pops." Pops. He'd started calling me that recently, like I was some doddering old man instead of someone who'd worked construction while he was getting his real estate license. "Just think about it," Sarah said, gathering the brochures. "We only want what's best for you." That night, I heard them whispering in their room. Words like stubborn and resistance to change drifted through the walls. Thursday, Sarah made an appointment for Dr. Martinez to come by Friday evening. "Just a casual dinner with an old family friend," she said. But I'd known Elena Martinez for 15 years. She was a geriatrician. "Robert, how's your memory lately?" Dr. Martinez asked over dessert, her tone carefully casual. "Fine," I replied, setting down my coffee cup. "Why do you ask?" Sarah jumped in. "He burned food on the stove last week, left it on for hours." I stared at her. I'd never burned anything on the stove. Ever. In 50 years of cooking, I'd never once left a burner on unattended. "Memory lapses are normal as we age," Dr. Martinez said gently. "Nothing to be ashamed of." I excused myself early, claiming tiredness, but I wasn't tired. I was calculating. Friday morning, I caught Michael measuring the master bedroom with a tape measure. "Just thinking about renovations, Pops." He didn't look up from his notebook. "Sarah and I are hoping to start a family soon. Might need to expand this room, add a nursery area." "In my bedroom?" "Well, eventually it would be our bedroom. You know, when you're settled somewhere more appropriate for your needs." Appropriate for my needs, like I was a piece of furniture that no longer fit the decor. That afternoon, I sat in the garden and called my old friend Frank from the poker group. "Frank, if someone wanted to sell a house quickly, how would they do it?" "Cash buyer," Frank said without hesitation. "Skip the mortgage approval process. Might lose a little on the price, but it's fast." "Why? You thinking of downsizing?" "Something like that." Friday evening, while Michael and Sarah watched television, I overheard Sarah on the phone with her college roommate, Jennifer. "Once Dad's in care, this place will be perfect for entertaining. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, that gorgeous chef's kitchen. We've been living like roommates instead of a married couple." My hand tightened around my coffee mug. "The old man doesn't understand what he's sitting on. This house could be our dream home if we just had some privacy." Old man. After everything I'd sacrificed to make her dreams possible, I was the old man standing in the way of her happiness. Saturday morning brought the breaking point. I'd made pancakes, her favorite Saturday breakfast since childhood, heart-shaped ones, just like Helen used to make. I'd gotten up at 6 to prepare fresh blueberry compote and real maple syrup, not the artificial stuff. Sarah came downstairs and picked at one pancake while scrolling through her phone. "Sarah," I said carefully, sitting across from her. About what your mother said before she died. About her promise that you'd take care of me." She looked up sharply. "What about it? Do you remember what you promised her?" Her face flushed. "Mom's dead, Dad. I can't live my entire life bound by promises I made to a dying woman. I have my own life now." "But you promised—" "I was grieving." She slammed her hand on the table, making the syrup bottle jump. "You can't expect me to sacrifice my future for your comfort." Michael appeared, drawn by the raised voices. "Sarah's right, Pops. This is about making practical decisions. You can't expect her to put her life on hold indefinitely." I stared at them both. My daughter and her husband united in their certainty that I was the problem to be solved. "Maybe," Sarah said, her voice gentler now, but no less final. "It's time you learned to let go." Let go. Of what? Of believing that love meant something? Of thinking that 35 years of devotion had earned me something more than a bed in a nursing home? I stood slowly, my knees protesting. "You're right," I said quietly. "It is time I learned something." That afternoon, while they went furniture shopping for their future nursery, I sat in Helen's chair with her photograph in my lap. "She chose her future over our history," I whispered to the empty room. I opened my laptop and typed carefully into the search bar, "How to sell house fast cash buyer." If practical was what they wanted, practical was what they'd get. But they had no idea what practical looked like when a man had nothing left to lose. I picked up the phone and dialed the first real estate attorney in the yellow pages. "Hello," I said when someone answered. "I need to sell my house immediately. Cash only. No contingencies." "How soon?" the voice asked. I looked at the vacation brochure Sarah had left on the coffee table. Their business trip to Chicago, leaving Monday, back Friday. "I need it sold by Friday." "That's very aggressive, sir. May I ask why the rush?" I thought about Sarah's words. Burden, old man, time to let go. I'm learning to be practical. Monday morning, Sarah and Michael loaded their suitcases into the BMW. The Chicago Business Conference would keep them away for 5 days, perfect timing for what I had planned. "Don't worry about us, Dad," Sarah called from the driveway. "Just rest and take care of yourself." "We'll talk about your future when we get back," Michael added, sliding his golf clubs into the trunk. A business trip that included golf clubs? How convenient. I waved from the front porch, watching them drive away. 30 minutes later, Janet Morrison from Morrison Real Estate arrived at my door. "Mr. Davis, I'm here about the urgent sale." Janet was efficient, professional, and asked no uncomfortable questions. She walked through the house with a practiced eye, noting the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself, the kitchen I'd renovated during Sarah's college years, the garden Helen and I had planted together. "The market is hot right now," she said, scribbling notes. "Location, condition, size. This house will move fast. I can have it listed by this afternoon." How fast is fast? With the right price and cash-only terms, 3 days, maybe 4. Do it. That afternoon, while the photographer documented every room, I visited downtown. First stop, Anderson & Associates Law Firm. Harold Anderson was old school, the kind of lawyer who still used fountain pens and kept hard copies of everything. He reviewed my situation with careful attention. "The house is solely in your name," he confirmed, checking the deed. "You have every legal right to sell it. However, Mr. Davis, this seems sudden. Are you certain about this decision?" "I've never been more certain about anything in my life." "And your daughter has no idea?" "None." He studied me for a long moment. "Very well. I'll prepare the paperwork for a quick sale. You'll want to update your will as well, I assume?" "Yes, everything changes." Next, I found a small apartment downtown, 1 bedroom, walking distance to everything I needed. The landlord, Mrs. Taylor, was a widow my age who understood the value of independence. "It's quiet here," she said, showing me the unit. "Mostly retirees who mind their own business. Rent's $1,200 a month, utilities included." $1,200, less than Sarah spent on her gym membership and spa treatments combined. I'll take it. When do you need to move in? Friday. She raised an eyebrow. That's short notice. I'm learning to be practical. Tuesday brought the first showing. 12 couples viewed the house between 10 and 4. By evening, Janet called with news. 3 offers, Mr. Davis. All cash. The highest is $875,000. $15,000 less than the asking price. But who was counting? It was still more money than I'd ever seen in one place. Accept it. Are you sure? We might get asking price if we wait. Accept it. Wednesday, the paperwork moved through lawyers' offices while I arranged the practical details. Moving company scheduled for Thursday morning. Bank account opened for the deposit. New will drafted, leaving Sarah exactly $50,000, enough for a down payment on a modest starter home. The rest would go to the Alzheimer's Foundation and the local nursing home's improvement fund. In Sarah's name, of course. She'd always wanted to be remembered for her contributions to the community. Thursday morning, 3 efficient men packed my belongings into boxes. 35 years of life reduced to a moving truck. Helen's china, carefully wrapped. My woodworking tools finally going to my new apartment, where I'd have time to use them again. Photo albums spanning Sarah's entire life. Every birthday, every Christmas, every proud moment. I kept those. Whatever else had changed, those memories were still real. Mrs. Taylor met me at the apartment with fresh coffee and homemade cookies. Moving is hard at our age, she said kindly, but sometimes change is good for the soul. I'm hoping so. Thursday evening, I found myself sitting quietly in my new living room, slowly and methodically assembling Helen's favorite lamp, the one with the cream-colored shade she'd bought at that little antique shop on our anniversary trip to Vermont, the lamp that had cast its warm, gentle glow over countless evenings of reading together, of quiet conversations about our hopes for Sarah's future, of simple moments that had made our house feel like home. Through the wide windows of my downtown apartment, I could see the lights of the city beginning to twinkle on like scattered stars, and I could hear the soft, distant murmur of people living their own lives, couples walking home from dinner, friends meeting for coffee, the gentle rhythm of a world that moved forward without demanding anything from me, without expecting me to anticipate every need or smooth every rough edge. For the first time in years, my shoulders felt completely, utterly relaxed, as if invisible weights had been lifted from them, as if I could finally breathe deeply without worrying. The house keys sat on my new kitchen counter in a small, neat pile beside the certified check for $875,000, more money than I had ever imagined holding at one time, representing not just the sale of walls and rooms and memories, but the reclaiming of my own right to choose how my story would end. Tomorrow, when Sarah and Michael returned from their business trip to Chicago, refreshed and probably pleased with whatever deals they had made, they would find new owners settling into what they had thought was their inheritance, and they would discover a carefully written letter explaining exactly what practical decisions looked like when made by someone who finally understood the difference between love and servitude. I'd also prepared something special for them. A copy of the bank statements showing every withdrawal Sarah had made from our joint account over the past 2 years. Highlighted in yellow. $2,000 a month for 24 months. $48,000 of my sacrifice, funding her comfort while she planned my disposal. Friday morning, I called Janet one final time. Is everything ready? The new owners take possession at noon. Locks will be changed immediately afterward. Your daughter will find your letter exactly where you specified. On the front doorstep? Weighted down with a brick, impossible to miss. I'd written that letter 3 times before getting it right. Not angry. Anger was hot and messy. This was cold and factual. A simple explanation of what happens when people mistake kindness for weakness. At 11:30, I took a taxi to the cafe across from my old house. Sarah and Michael's flight landed at 2. They'd be home by 3:30, expecting to find their burden of a father waiting to discuss his future in managed care. Instead, they'd find strangers living in what they'd thought was their inheritance. I ordered coffee and positioned myself by the window. The new owners, a young couple with twin toddlers, were already moving boxes through the front door. The children's laughter carried across the street. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Dad, we're at the airport. Hope you're ready to talk seriously about your future." I typed back, "I'm ready. Are you?" At 3:45, the silver BMW pulled into the driveway. I watched Sarah and Michael climb out, suntanned and relaxed from their business trip. Sarah carried shopping bags from Chicago boutiques. They approached the front door like they owned it. The key didn't fit. I saw Sarah jiggle the handle, try the key again. Saw Michael lean over her shoulder, confused. Saw them step back and look at the house number, confirming they had the right address. Then Sarah spotted the envelope on the doorstep. She tore it open and read my letter while Michael peered over her shoulder. From across the street, I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I'd written them myself. The screaming started 30 seconds later. Sarah's scream cut through the afternoon air like broken glass. She stood on the front porch clutching my letter, her face twisted in disbelief. Michael snatched the paper from her hands, his mouth moving as he read. From my cafe window seat, I watched the drama unfold like a silent movie. Sarah pounded on the door. The new owners, Tom and Lisa Chen with their twin 2-year-olds, peered out nervously. Tom cracked the door open, keeping the chain lock engaged. I couldn't hear the conversation, but the body language told the story. Sarah gesturing wildly. Michael pulling out his phone, probably calling his real estate contacts. Tom shaking his head apologetically before closing the door firmly. Sarah kicked the door. Actually kicked it. A 35-year-old marketing executive having a tantrum on the front porch of a house that was no longer hers. My coffee had gone cold, but I couldn't look away. They spent 20 minutes on the lawn, Sarah pacing while Michael made increasingly frantic phone calls. Eventually, they climbed back into the BMW and drove off, leaving tire marks on the driveway I'd maintained for 3 decades. My phone rang 40 minutes later. "Dad?" Sarah's voice was raw from crying. "Where are you?" "I'm having coffee downtown. How was Chicago?" "Don't play games with me. What did you do?" "I made practical decisions. Isn't that what you wanted?" "You can't sell the house. That's our home." "It was my home," I corrected gently. "You made it clear you wanted me to find somewhere more appropriate for my needs." "This is insane. You're having some kind of breakdown. We need to talk right now." "I agree. Where would you like to meet?" She gave me her location, a Starbucks on 5th Street. Neutral ground. I finished my coffee slowly, paid my bill, and walked the 6 blocks at a leisurely pace. No rush. I had nowhere else to be. Sarah and Michael were waiting in a corner booth, their faces flushed with anger and desperation. Sarah had been crying. Her mascara left dark tracks down her cheeks. "Dad, sit down." Sarah's voice carried the authoritative tone she used in business meetings. "We need to discuss this rationally." I slid into the seat across from them, noting how they'd positioned themselves on the same side of the booth. United front. Good strategy. "You can't have sold the house," Michael began. "That's impossible. Real estate transactions take weeks." "Cash sales move faster," I replied, "especially when the seller is motivated." "This is financial abuse," Sarah's voice rose, drawing stares from other customers. "You're not thinking clearly. We need to get you help." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years." "Dad, you just threw away $890,000. "I received $875,000 actually. The buyers had cash." Sarah stared at me. You actually sold it?" "This morning. The new owners are lovely people. Tom and Lisa Chen. They have twin boys. The house will be full of laughter again." "But where are you living?" Michael demanded. "I have an apartment downtown, 1 bedroom, very comfortable, $1,200 a month." $1,200? Sarah's voice cracked. "Dad, you could have lived in that house for free forever." "Nothing is free, sweetheart. Everything has a cost. I just finally learned what mine was worth." Michael leaned forward, his real estate agent training kicking in. "Look, Pops, we can fix this. I have connections. We can contest the sale, claim diminished capacity, get it reversed." I pulled a folder from my jacket. "You mean these?" The medical documents spread across the small table like playing cards. Cognitive assessment from Dr. Richards, perfect scores. Blood work showing excellent mental function, a letter from my physician stating I was of sound mind and body. "I had these done last week," I said as they stared at the papers. Funny thing about that appointment with Dr. Martinez, it made me realize I should get my mental health properly documented. Sarah's face went pale. You knew about Elena?" "I know about many things. For instance, I know you've withdrawn $48,000 from our joint account over the past 2 years. I placed the highlighted bank statements on the table. Each withdrawal circled in red. The running total at the bottom, $48,372. "Dad, I can explain—" "Please do. Explain how someone who sees their father as a burden deserves to inherit his life savings." Michael's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went even paler. "Sarah, we need to talk, privately." "No," I said firmly. "We're all talking now. What's the message, Michael?" He hesitated, then held up his phone. A text from someone named Rick. "Checked with the county. The sale is legitimate and recorded. The house was sold to the Chen family this morning. Can't be contested. The seller was competent, and it was his property." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Sarah whispered, "Where are we supposed to live?" "You're both employed professionals," I said, echoing the words they'd used to dismiss my concerns. "Figure it out." "But we can't afford—" "You can afford many things. You've been affording them with my money for 2 years. Sarah broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. "Dad, I'm pregnant. We just found out yesterday. Your first grandchild." The words hit me like a physical blow. A grandchild. Helen's grandchild. I felt something twist in my chest. For a moment, the anger wavered. "Congratulations," I said quietly. "When are you due?" "December," she whispered through her tears. "We were going to tell you tonight. We wanted the house to be safe for the baby." Michael reached across and squeezed her hand. "Sarah, maybe we shouldn't—" "No." She looked up at me with red, desperate eyes. "Dad, we need that house. Your grandchild needs a safe place to grow up." I studied her face carefully. The tears seemed real. The desperation certainly was. "What's your doctor's name?" I asked. "What?" "Your doctor. If you're pregnant, you must have seen a doctor." Sarah and Michael exchanged a quick glance. Too quick. Dr. Williams?" Sarah stammered. "But it's early. We just found out." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Found Dr. Elena Martinez. "Elena, it's Robert Davis. Quick question about insurance protocols. If someone sees an OB/GYN, does that show up on insurance claims immediately?" I listened for a moment, watching Sarah's face grow ashen. "Even for initial visits? Interesting. Thank you." I hung up and looked directly at Sarah. Dr. Martinez says all medical visits show on insurance within 48 hours, including pregnancy consultations. The lie crumbled in real time. Sarah's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You lied about being pregnant," I said. It wasn't a question. "Dad, we were trying—" "You lied about a grandchild to manipulate me. After everything else, you lied about the one thing that might have changed my mind." Michael stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. You're a bitter old man who just destroyed his own family out of spite." "I'm a man who learned the difference between family and people who share your DNA." I gathered my documents and stood to leave. "Dad, wait!" Sarah grabbed my arm. "What about us? What about our future?" I looked down at her hand on my sleeve. Once, that touch would have melted my resolve. Once, I would have given her anything she asked for. "You wanted me to learn to let go," I said gently, removing her hand. "Congratulations. I'm learning." As I walked away, I heard Sarah call out, We won't just leave this alone. This isn't over. I paused at the door and looked back. No, I said. I don't imagine it is. But for the first time in 3 years, I was looking forward to finding out what came next. They found my apartment building Tuesday morning. I was watering the small herb garden Mrs. Taylor had helped me plant on my balcony when the BMW pulled up outside. Sarah emerged first, followed by Michael and a third man in an expensive suit, clearly a lawyer. I watched them march through the lobby entrance like an invasion force. My building's security intercom buzzed 5 minutes later. "Mr. Davis, there are people here demanding to see you. Should I send them up?" "I'll come down." The lobby was marble and brass, elegant in an understated way. Sarah stood near the mailboxes, her arms crossed, while Michael paced by the elevator. The lawyer, tall, silver-haired, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly rent, studied his phone. "Dad?" Sarah's voice was cold, controlled. "We need to talk." "Hello, Sarah. Michael." I nodded to the stranger. "And you are?" "James Patterson, Patterson and Associates." He stepped forward with practiced authority. "I represent your daughter's interests in this matter." "What matter would that be?" "The illegal sale of property that rightfully belongs to my client." I smiled. "Everything I own rightfully belongs to me. Unless you have documents stating otherwise?" Patterson opened his briefcase with theatrical precision. "Mr. Davis, we have grounds to contest this sale based on diminished mental capacity, elder abuse, and financial manipulation." "By whom?" "By yourself, against yourself." His tone suggested he was used to intimidating people. "Your behavior demonstrates clear signs of cognitive decline and poor judgment." I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. "Would you mind repeating that accusation? For my attorney's records?" Patterson's confident expression flickered. "This isn't a deposition, Mr. Davis." "No, but it might become evidence in a defamation lawsuit." I kept the phone raised. "Please continue explaining how exercising legal ownership of my own property constitutes mental incompetence." Sarah stepped between us. "Dad, stop playing games. We know you're angry with us, but this is crazy. You can't just destroy your own family." "I didn't destroy anything. I exercised property rights." "You made us homeless." "You're both employed adults with college degrees. I have faith in your problem-solving abilities." Michael exploded. "This is insane. We're your family. You can't just throw us away like garbage." "Interesting choice of words," I said calmly. "Tell me, what's the difference between throwing someone away and putting them in a nursing home?" The lobby had filled with residents during our conversation. Mrs. Taylor emerged from the mailroom along with Mr. Rodriguez from 3B and the Johnsons from the second floor. My neighbors witnessing this public performance. Patterson sensed the audience and adjusted his strategy. "Mr. Davis, let's discuss this reasonably. Your daughter and son-in-law are facing hardship because of your impulsive decision." "Impulsive?" I turned to address my neighbors directly. "Last week I overheard my daughter planning to put me in a nursing home so she could take my house. She told her husband I was a burden who needed to be removed." Murmurs rippled through the small crowd. Mrs. Taylor's expression darkened. "That's not what happened." Sarah's voice rose desperately. "Dad, you're twisting everything. We were trying to help you." "By lying to Dr. Martinez about my mental state? By measuring my bedroom for your future nursery? By withdrawing $48,000 from our joint account?" Mr. Rodriguez whistled low. 48 grand? I pulled out the bank statements and held them up. $2,000 a month for 2 years, while telling me they were saving for their future. "Dad, stop!" Sarah's face flushed crimson. "Don't air our private business in front of strangers." "Why not? You had no problem discussing my future with strangers when you thought I couldn't hear." Patterson tried to regain control. "Mr. Davis, these family disputes can be resolved through mediation. There's no need for this public spectacle." "You're right." I tucked the bank statements away. "Sarah, Michael, "Mr. Patterson, I think it's time you left." "We're not done here," Michael snarled. "You think you've won? You have no idea what we're capable of." Mrs. Taylor stepped forward, all 4 feet 11 inches of her bristling with indignation. "Are you threatening this man in my building?" "This is family business," Patterson said smoothly. "Please mind your own affairs." "Mr. Davis is my tenant and my friend," Mrs. Taylor replied. "His safety is my affair. Security." 2 uniformed guards appeared from the building office, ex-police officers by the look of them, and unimpressed by Patterson's expensive suit. "Is there a problem?" the taller guard asked. "These people are harassing our tenant," Mrs. Taylor said. "I want them removed from the premises." "Dad," Sarah made one last desperate appeal. "I'm pregnant. Your grandchild needs a stable home." The words hung in the air like smoke. Every face in the lobby turned toward me, waiting for my response. I looked at Sarah, really looked at her, saw the desperation, the calculated tears, the way she positioned her hand protectively over her still flat stomach. "When is your first prenatal appointment?" I asked quietly. Next week." "With Dr. Williams?" "Yes." I pulled out my phone again. "Sarah, I called Dr. Williams's office yesterday. They have no record of you as a patient. In fact, Dr. Williams retired 18 months ago." The silence that followed was deafening. "Moreover," I continued, "I called your insurance company. You've made no medical claims for pregnancy-related care, no blood tests, no consultations, nothing." Sarah's face crumpled. "Dad, we were going to—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop lying. To me, to these people, to yourself." I turned to address the lobby full of witnesses. My daughter lied about being pregnant. She lied about trying to help me. She lied about her intentions for my house. The only truth she's told is that she saw me as a burden to be disposed of. Mr. Rodriguez shook his head in disgust. "That's cold, lady. Real cold." Patterson sensed the mood turning toxic for his clients. "We're leaving, but Mr. Davis, this isn't over. We'll be exploring all legal options." "Explore away," I replied. "I'm confident in my position." As they headed for the exit, Michael turned back with a snarl. "You'll regret this, old man. We know where you live now." The security guard stepped forward. "Sir, that sounded like a threat." "It wasn't a threat," Michael backpedaled quickly. "It was a statement of fact." "Mr. Patterson," I called out as they reached the door, "I assume you're familiar with restraining order procedures?" The lawyer's face went pale. "That won't be necessary." "I hope not." After they left, my neighbors clustered around me with words of support and outrage. Mrs. Taylor invited me for tea. Mr. Rodriguez offered to help if I needed anything. The Johnsons shared their own story of ungrateful children. But as I rode the elevator back to my apartment, Sarah's final words echoed in my mind. "This isn't over." She was right. This was escalation, not resolution, and people who had already shown they were willing to lie about pregnancy and medical conditions wouldn't hesitate to try more desperate measures. I needed to be ready for whatever came next. As I unlocked my apartment door, I was already planning my next move. Sarah wanted to play hardball? Fine. But she had no idea who she was really playing against. The harassment started 3 days later. Phone calls at 2 a.m, heavy breathing, then silence. My landline, my cell phone, even the building's main number. When I stopped answering, they escalated. Friday morning, I found my car tires slashed in the parking garage. Saturday, someone had thrown eggs at my apartment windows. Sunday, my mailbox was stuffed with nursing home brochures and pamphlets about cognitive decline in elderly men. Mrs. Taylor was furious. "This is criminal harassment, Robert. You need to call the police." "Not yet," I said, sweeping eggshell fragments from my window ledge. "Let them dig their hole deeper." Because I was documenting everything, photos of the tire damage, screenshots of the call logs. Security camera footage Mrs. Taylor had pulled from the building's system. Every piece of evidence is carefully cataloged and stored. Monday morning brought the nuclear option. I was having coffee in my kitchen when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. Mr. Davis, this is Linda Thompson from Adult Protective Services. We've received a concerning report about your living situation. My blood went cold. What kind of report? A family member contacted us with allegations of self-neglect, unsafe living conditions, and possible substance abuse. We need to schedule a welfare check immediately. When would you like to come? Today, if possible. Are you available at 2 p.m.? I'll be here. I spent the morning cleaning an apartment that was already spotless, organized my medications in clear containers with labels, prepared a folder with all my medical records, bank statements, and documentation of the harassment campaign. Linda Thompson arrived precisely at 2, a kind-faced woman in her 50s who looked like she'd seen every form of family dysfunction imaginable. Mr. Davis, thank you for meeting with me on short notice. I invited her in and offered coffee. She accepted, already scanning my living space with professional eyes. Your daughter Sarah expressed serious concerns about your well-being, she began, pulling out a tablet. She mentioned you've been exhibiting erratic behavior, making irrational financial decisions, and possibly self-medicating with alcohol. I see. What else did she tell you? That you sold your house impulsively and moved into inadequate housing. That you've cut off contact with family members who were trying to help you. That you've been making threatening phone calls. I nodded calmly. Would you like to see my medical records? For the next hour, I walked Linda through everything. Dr. Richard's cognitive assessment, my diabetes management records, the organized medication schedule, my monthly budget showing careful financial planning. Your apartment is immaculate, she noted, and you seem very well organized for someone allegedly suffering from cognitive decline. There's more. I handed her the harassment documentation folder. I've been receiving anonymous phone calls, my property has been vandalized, and someone has been sending me unwanted mail. Linda reviewed the photos and call logs with growing concern. Mr. Davis, do you have any idea who might be doing this? I have suspicions, but no proof. What about these threatening phone calls your daughter mentioned? I pulled out my phone and opened the call log. Every outgoing call I've made in the past month. You're welcome to verify any of them. Linda was quiet for a long moment, studying the evidence. Mr. Davis, in my professional opinion, you show no signs of cognitive impairment, substance abuse, or self-neglect. Your living situation is appropriate and well-maintained. What happens now? I'll file a report stating that the welfare check found no evidence supporting the allegations. However, she hesitated. Mr. Davis, these harassment incidents concern me. Have you considered filing a police report? I've been gathering evidence first. You might want to accelerate that timeline. False APS reports are serious, but combined with the harassment pattern, this could escalate further. After Linda left, I sat in my kitchen reviewing everything that had happened. Sarah had tried legal intimidation, public humiliation, physical harassment, and now she was attempting to have me declared mentally incompetent through official channels. Time for the nuclear response. I called Harold Anderson's office. Harold, it's Robert Davis. I need you to prepare 2 sets of documents. First, a restraining order against my daughter and son-in-law. Second, I want to make some changes to my will. What kind of changes? Sarah currently inherits $50,000. I want that reduced to $1. $1? It prevents her from claiming she was accidentally omitted. The rest goes to charity as planned. But I want to add something specific, a detailed explanation of why. Robert, are you certain about this course of action? They filed a false report with Adult Protective Services claiming I'm mentally incompetent. They've been harassing me for a week. At what point does forgiveness become enabling? I'll have the papers ready by tomorrow. That evening, I received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Taylor knocked on my door around 7 p.m., carrying a plate of homemade dumplings and wearing an expression I couldn't quite read. "Robert, we need to talk." She settled into my kitchen chair and fixed me with a steady gaze. "I've been thinking about what happened in the lobby, about your daughter." "Mrs. Taylor, you don't need to—" "My daughter lives in Seattle," she interrupted. "Haven't spoken to her in 3 years. You know why?" I shook my head. "Because she wanted me to sell my house and move into senior living. Said it was for my own good. Said I was too old to maintain a property." Mrs. Taylor's voice hardened. "Some children see their parents as problems to be solved rather than people to be loved." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be smart." She leaned forward. "You think this ends with restraining orders and lawyers? People like your daughter don't give up. They escalate." "What do you mean?" "I mean be careful, Robert. When money and pride are both at stake, family can become very dangerous." Her words proved prophetic sooner than I expected. Wednesday morning, I woke to my apartment's smoke alarm blaring. I stumbled out of bed, expecting to find a kitchen fire or electrical problem. Instead, I found my front door standing wide open and the hallway filled with acrid smoke from a small fire that had been set in a trash can right outside my apartment. Building security arrived within minutes, followed by the fire department. No serious damage, but the message was clear. We can reach you anywhere. That afternoon, I filed the police report. Detective Maria Santos listened to my story with professional attention, reviewing all my documentation. "Mr. Davis, this pattern of escalation concerns me. The false APS report combined with the harassment and now arson, even small-scale arson, suggests your daughter and son-in-law are becoming increasingly desperate. What can you do?" "I can investigate the harassment complaints and see what evidence we can develop. The arson will be harder to prove without witnesses or security footage of the perpetrators." "What should I do in the meantime?" "Be careful. Consider staying elsewhere for a few days while we sort this out." But I had no intention of running. This was my home now, my life, my choice. That evening, as I sat in my living room reading, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Dad, this is getting out of hand. We need to talk. Just the two of us. No lawyers, no drama. Meet me tomorrow at Mom's grave. 1 p.m., please. Sarah." I stared at the message for a long time. Helen's grave. The one place that still held meaning for both of us. The one place where Sarah might finally tell the truth. Or the one place isolated enough for her to try something truly desperate. I typed back, "I'll be there." Because after everything that had happened, I needed to know what my daughter had truly become, and what I was willing to do about it. Riverside Cemetery was quiet under the October sun. Helen's grave sat beneath an old oak tree, its leaves just beginning to turn golden. I'd chosen this spot because she loved autumn, loved the way light filtered through changing leaves. Sarah was already there when I arrived, sitting cross-legged on the grass beside the headstone. She looked smaller somehow, deflated. The designer clothes were wrinkled, her hair unwashed. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Hi, Dad." "Hello, sweetheart." I sat down carefully, my knees protesting the movement. Helen's gravestone was simple granite, with her name, dates, and the inscription I'd chosen, "Beloved wife and mother." She gave us everything. "I used to come here when I was angry with you," Sarah said quietly. "After Mom died, I'd tell her how unfair you were being, how you didn't understand what I was going through." "What did she say?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "Nothing. Dead people don't give advice." She wiped her nose with her sleeve. "But sometimes I pretended she did. I pretended she told me you'd come around eventually, that you'd realize I was just trying to build a life." "Were you? Trying to build a life?" "I thought so." She picked at the grass between us. "Michael and I, we had plans. The house was perfect for entertaining clients, for raising kids someday. It felt like fate when you moved in with us." "Fate?" Like Mom was making sure we'd all be together, one big happy family in that beautiful house. I studied her profile, looking for traces of the little girl who used to make me construction paper Father's Day cards. When did I stop being part of that family and start being an obstacle to it? Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. When Michael started talking about property values, when we realized how much money was just sitting there, tied up in a house you might live in for 20 more years. She turned to look at me, tears streaming down her face. Dad, do you know what it's like to be 35 and still living like you're in college? Sharing space, tiptoeing around someone else's schedule, never feeling like you have a real home? I know what it's like to sacrifice your comfort for someone you love. But I never asked you to do that. You never had to ask. That's what parents do. And what about what children do? What about my life, my dreams, my future? I reached over and touched Helen's headstone, running my fingers over her name. Your mother and I had dreams too. We wanted to travel when we retired, see Europe, take that photography class she always talked about, maybe buy a little cabin by the lake. So why didn't you? Because you needed college tuition, then graduate school, then a wedding, then help with rent when your marketing job didn't pay enough at first. I looked at her directly. Every dream we postponed for you, and we did it gladly, because that's what love looks like. Sarah's sobbing intensified. I know, Dad, I know how much you sacrificed, but I can't live my whole life trying to repay a debt I never asked for. I never wanted repayment. I wanted respect. Respect? I wanted you to see me as a person, not a burden. I wanted you to include me in decisions about my own life instead of making plans behind my back. We were trying to help. You were trying to solve a problem. I was the problem. She had no answer for that. We sat in silence, listening to wind rustle through the oak leaves above Helen's grave. Finally, Sarah whispered, "What happens now?" I pulled out a manila envelope and set it on the grass between us. This is a copy of my new will. You inherit $1. $1? It's legally significant. Proves I didn't forget you. She opened the envelope with shaking hands, scanning the legal language until she found the relevant section. Her face went white. $850,000 to the Alzheimer's Foundation in my name? Your name will be on a plaque, in honor of Sarah Davis, who taught her father about practical decisions. Dad, you can't. I can, and I have. The papers are already filed. Sarah stared at the document, then at me, then at her mother's grave. You're really going to destroy me over this? I'm not destroying you. I'm freeing you. Freeing me? From the burden of pretending to love someone you see as an obstacle. From the obligation to care for someone you want to warehouse. From the guilt of taking money you haven't earned. She was crying again, but quietly now. I did love you. I do love you. I believe you love the idea of me, the father who provides and protects and never asks for anything in return. But you don't love the reality of me, a real person with needs and feelings and the right to make his own choices. I was scared, Dad. Scared of being responsible for you forever. Scared of watching you get sick and die like Mom did 9 years ago. Scared of sacrificing my whole life the way you sacrificed yours. For the first time in our conversation, I felt a flicker of my old compassion. Sarah, nobody asked you to sacrifice your life. I asked you to share it. What's the difference? Sacrifice is resentful. Sharing is joyful. She wiped her eyes and looked around the cemetery, at the other graves, the other stories of love and loss carved in stone. So this is it? You're writing me out of your life completely? That's up to you. What do you mean? You can contest the will, fight me in court, spend years and thousands of dollars trying to prove I'm mentally incompetent, make us both miserable until one of us dies. Or you can accept that actions have consequences. Use this experience to become the person your mother hoped you'd be. And if I do that? Then maybe someday we can have coffee together and talk about something other than money and nursing homes. Maybe you can tell me about your actual dreams instead of your financial plans. Maybe we can be family again instead of adversaries." Sarah was quiet for several minutes, staring at her mother's grave. "The harassment," she said finally. "The phone calls, the tire slashing, the fire." "What about it?" "That was Michael's idea. I told him to stop, but he said you needed to understand there would be consequences." "And now?" "Now I understand there already were consequences. I just didn't realize I'd be the one paying them." She stood up, brushing grass from her clothes. "I should go." "Sarah," she turned back. "Your mother would have been proud of the woman you could become. Don't let her down." After she left, I sat alone with Helen's grave for another hour. The autumn sun was warm on my face, and for the first time in months, my shoulders felt completely relaxed. 2 weeks later, Sarah sent me a text. "Dad, I'm starting therapy, learning about boundaries and healthy relationships. Maybe when I'm ready, we could try that coffee." I wrote back, "I'll be here when you are." 6 months later, she knocked on my apartment door. No lawyer, no Michael, no agenda. Just my daughter, looking nervous and hopeful. "Hi, Dad. I brought coffee, the good kind." We sat in my kitchen and talked about her job, her therapy, the book she was reading. Not about money or inheritance or nursing homes, just two people sharing an hour and pretending the past could be forgiven, if not forgotten. When she left, she hugged me at the door. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for all of it. I know. Do you forgive me?" I thought about Helen, about the promises we'd made, about the difference between love and obligation. "I'm learning to," I said. "Are you learning to forgive yourself?" "I'm trying." "That's enough for now?" After she was gone, I made myself dinner and sat on my balcony watching the city lights flicker on. Mrs. Taylor was right. Some relationships break, but others get stronger at the broken places. I'd sold my house and bought my freedom, lost my daughter, and found my dignity. Learned that love without respect is just another form of servitude. And sometimes, when you stop trying to hold on to people who want to leave, they find their way back on their own. The inheritance stayed in place. $850,000 to help families dealing with memory loss and cognitive decline. A practical decision that honored both love and boundaries. Sarah never contested it. Some lessons, it turned out, were worth more than money. And some prices once paid bought exactly what you needed.